Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. It deserves to be heard. At Peak, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build a community. We empower girls in sport and coaches and caretakers with the knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary to thrive in today's athletic environments. Join us for bold conversations about experience of girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, certainly get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. Whether you're walking, commuting, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you. Follow us. It helps more than you can imagine. Check out our website and make sure you share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, I can't wait to introduce you to our next guest, Kellie. Kellie and I met through the crazy world of social media, which is actually where I've met so many of the coolest people ever. It's actually how I met my intern, Megan, who runs this podcast. And Kellie and I were developing a relationship, and I just have to tell you a funny side story. She sent me a quick email and said, "Hey, listen, I, have been working with Lake Forest College. By any chance, are you located near Lake Forest College?" And I responded back after I actually talked with the coach at Lake Forest College first, because I'm really clear about boundaries and kind of protecting who people are and what I share. Anyways, I emailed the coach at Lake Forest College, who happens to be my daughter, and said, "It looks like we have a person in common in the nutrition space. Can I share that you and I are related?" And of course, Casey said, "Of course you should share that we are related." So Kellie has been working with Lake Forest College women's lacrosse, and that is the team that our daughter coaches. And I happen to coach a team just a little away from that in Libertyville, Illinois. So I coach girls cross country. So it is a very, very small world. And obviously, right. And obviously Casey and I were both completely, intrigued and thrilled with Kellie's expertise. So I can't wait to get warmed up so they can learn more about you. You ready, Kellie?
Yes, I am ready.
Awesome. Okay. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Nice. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you any of those. Winter or summer?
Yes, exactly. Summer. Yep. You got it.
Blow dry or air dry your hair?
Oh, that is such a good one. I don't know if you have seen pictures of me. I have really, really curly hair. So I have to air dry it, or it is the size of, a maple tree outside.
I love it. That's how we ask these important, hard-hitting questions. Summer or Winter Olympics?
Oh my gosh, this is always a hard one, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, Summer Olympics, I am already, honestly, if you ask me, one of my goals in personal and professional, I want to be in attendance at least for the LA 28 games, because that's the first Olympic Games that lacrosse will be an official sport, but also to hopefully maybe professionally, just as, working with athletes and coaches and, the caretakers of athletes. So one of my goals is to be at LA 28 somehow, some way.
Oh my gosh. You and I have to really talk off.
Yeah.
My goal too. I'm actually trying to get some type of job there. So
I would love it.
We have to talk about this.
Okay, perfect.
My bucket list goals also. So
perfect.
We also have that in common.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are cut from the same cloth, I'm thinking.
Completely. I'm so glad that we've connected. So why don't you spend just a few minutes talking to us about Her First Athletics, which is the company you own and operate, and why you started it. Let's start there.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So Her First Athletics, we really are into education. I have a background in public health and nutrition, but I'm not a registered dietitian. So I cannot provide clinical, diagnoses or treatment plans or anything like that. But from my public health background, what I really see, and being a coach myself, I really see a huge gap in that education of, specifically female athletes, but really all athletes across the board. And then also too, their caretakers. So their parents, their coaches, and even, the athletic trainers and strength and conditioning coaches or the physical therapists that they work with just need a little bit more education on, nutrition and how to really care for the female athlete. And so that's what we do, is we try to fill in that gap and kind of be that almost the bridge between teams and individuals, but specifically teams and organizations, to try to, again, bring that education, but then also to connect them to other resources that if they do need some clinical expertise, we will refer them and get them pointed in the right direction. Because a lot of times too, we see that they don't even know where to go. And so that's a big piece of it as well. So we like to kind of say we're the first kind of entry point. And then, if clinical services are needed, we're happy to point in a different direction. And then the other piece of it is, in the works is we're really trying to build this community of female athletes themselves, their parents, their coaches, and then also to the providers on that clinical side. So they can, have that, hear that expertise from across all fields. So it's not just nutrition. It is, injury prevention or mental health, mental performance, whatever it might be. We're really just trying to, give a platform for these athletes, parents, and coaches to really hear from the experts, but also to giving that platform to those experts to share the incredible work that they're doing in this, community, and how, this population can really benefit from their services and or their research if they're, in academics and doing some research.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because my background is in strength and conditioning, mobility, certified yoga, certified sports and conditioning. And the interesting piece is that was my frustration also, is a lack of information and resources that was directly relevant to girls and or women, depending on, the age. But the conversation is the same. It's still a lack of information, a lack of data surrounding a female body. I mean, that is what both of us are saying. And same thing. I don't have a degree in nutrition. I don't have a degree in mental health, but I recognize that there has to be an intersection of the fitness, fuel, performance, mental health piece for girls and women in sport.
Absolutely.
In order to have any type of forward moving. And I want to circle back to what you talked about with health. Now, performance is a big piece because you and I are both working with athletes, and we have to focus on performance. But the thing that is really my motivator is we can talk about performance, and you and I are both well aware athletes can underfuel and overtrain and still perform optimally. Yeah. They can also not perform optimally, but they can perform optimally. The real heartache comes at an older age when they start struggling with things like infertility, bone loss, muscle loss, losing their teeth, no hair. I mean, like the list goes on and on and on. And so while you and I are both experts in certain arenas, we're talking about the broader conversation of health in relationship. Can an athlete perform optimally and still maintain health and future health? Right. Am I kind of saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And I think too, with when we look at an athlete, or I mean, unfortunately, a lot of times what does happen is individuals, whether that's coaches, the athlete themselves, their caretakers, sees performance, right? Sure. And so that health almost takes a back seat. And what we really want to happen is for at least to be on the same level. And so that's why, one of our mottos is her health, her performance first. So both of those things need to be put first. And again, helping kind of bring awareness to what that all might look like and feel like. And, you and I thankfully had a great discussion prior to this about, trying to even come up with ways to bring that awareness about. And it's not easy, and it's, sometimes it doesn't happen. And what have you. But I think it's always worth the chance to bring, let's do the best we can to bring that awareness, to increase that knowledge, to change that behavior. And a lot of times that takes a lot of handholding, and we just don't see, especially at the middle school, high school, but even at the collegiate athlete level, we do not see that support and that, that handholding, honestly, that consistent support that a lot of times that needs to happen in order for that behavior change to take place. So again, another reason we're kind of using this community as that platform is to really kind of be that thread that ties all of this together. And so, we're, just like we're doing now, we're just hoping to cast that net out as far as we can and really try to make as many connections and networks as possible, because I think that is, what's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah. So I think, that together piece is really what we're going to be looking to do.
Yeah. So Megan, I'm just curious, what do you think? Well, and you and I have had conversations about this before, but in relationship to performance, meaning you can get out there and, under fuel and overtrain and still perform optimally for a period of time until you can't. But then again, long-term health implications, even for you don't maybe necessarily see those long-term health, so talk to us about what you think, can be done better, or what is going well in what you see.
Well, from what I've been listening to you two talk about the last couple of minutes is I've been thinking a lot about my own experience. In my first 2 years at the University of Kentucky, I was so uninformed about general nutrition and health tips, I would say, just from like a whole new way of life of just super intense training and a practice schedule that I had never experienced before, so many hours in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I didn't really have any knowledge, I would say. And there were, general team nutritionists, but I seriously don't think we ever had a team meeting once with one, or, it was never really like a thing where it was that easy access and information was constantly talked about or spread, especially for the female athletes on my team. It was just, you should have carbs in your diet, make sure you're getting enough protein. That was seriously the extent of it. So transferring to University of Iowa, I would say it's definitely been better. There's a lot more access to information. We have had team meetings with nutritionists, but still, I do feel like, as you guys have been touching on, we're missing such a huge aspect of being a female. And I feel like now that I'm graduating in 4 months, I do have a lot of the information I would love to have as a freshman.
Yeah.
So I could not agree more with what you guys have been saying. There is stuff out there, and there's, papers and flyers and things, but just that super specific stuff that you can relate to yourself and change your routine and do things to help yourself, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. So you're bringing up also a really good point that, we're kind of hoping to address with this, community is, it really does matter that someone is interested in the information, right? Or somebody holds value in whatever information it might be, or the, issue or challenge that they're dealing with, or what have you. And so really kind of listening to that. I mean, getting feedback from these, female athletes, their parents and their coaches to be like, listen, this is what we need, or we want, or what we're experiencing, so we can direct those workshops and messages towards those things. Because listen, I love research. We are going to be a very evidence-based business, but when it comes down to it, it really does matter what the individual, the team, organization wants or needs, to learn from their own experience. So
100%.
that's a huge piece of it. And I'm I always want to say I'm so sorry for the previous experiences that you have had, Megan, because I know I have, dealt with, an eating disorder and other, not so great experiences in my own collegiate athlete career. Anne Marie, I know we had talked about that as well with your own. And, it's it's unfortunate that we're almost kind of like in this club, but I do want to kind of give you a little.
It's not a club you want to be a part of.
No, it's not. It's not exactly. But I think, it does just build this passion and this core of, fuel inside of you that you want to help, prevent this and,
Exactly.
Other athletes or female athletes or whatever it might be, whether that's on a professional level or honestly just as, a human being and you're out there doing, whatever it is you choose to do once you graduate. But I always want to just kind of, hug and be like, you're going to be okay. I promise. All of this terrible stuff that has happened, somehow you learn and you grow and you become, a stronger person for it.
Yes, I would say I've definitely learned and grown a lot. And as far as from a performance aspect and what we were touching on before, it's funny because when you get to the college level, it's the smallest of small things matter when you're trying to get better. So you're at this competitive conference, you're racing all these new teams, and it's these things that people think are small, such as nutrition and health and all these notes and facts. Like that's what's going to make you that 1 or 2% better.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's what I have realized the most. Because my freshman year, if you asked me, like, oh, I just need to train harder, train more. But it's exactly this type of information and knowledge that I feel like makes the difference for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we have to also remember that nutrition, the tweaking of the nutrition, the tweaking of the whatever the performance enhancement thing is, honestly is not going to matter at all if we're not protecting the basics, which is basic health, right? And so again, that message has to be like, listen, we have to take care of ourselves on all levels first and take care of ourselves as a human being. And then we get to add on, that extra layer of comfort and care as an athlete.
Yes, which now is all, I feel like, finally coming full circle for me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I think some of it is helping people understand, and I think some of it is helping us as a community, and the community being coaches or health providers, understand definitions and that language matters. I think what happens in the world we live in is people confuse the words fitness, health, performance, even things like, here's like an example, is that this constant tracking. And listen, I understand. I mean, I coach running, Megan's in swimming. I understand there's a place for tracking, but there's also a place for disconnecting and understanding. Is tracking how many steps you're taking really making you fitter? The answer is no, it does not make you fitter, period. And I will argue this till I am blue in the face, but we have now equated how many steps we take with being fit. That is not a measure of being fit. That is a measure of how many steps you took. That's it. So I think some of it is we confuse language. So you're starting with the baseline of health, which means, are we getting a period? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we taking enough calories? And calories is a measure of fuel. Are we doing appropriate strength and conditioning exercises to maintain our musculoskeletal system? Are we doing appropriate mobility drills to maintain the appropriate amount of dexterity and flexibility for our sport? Such as, if you're a swimmer, you don't need the same flexibility as you're a gymnast. So some of it, I think, is, as professionals, we need to clarify exactly the terms we're using. Do you think that's true, Kellie?
Yes, actually, and I'm going to probably take it a little step further and say not just definitions and terms, but honestly context, right? So a lot of the messaging that we read, everybody automatically assumes that message is for them. And it's like, no, we have to be very clear what the context is of this. And that's why a lot of times, especially when I'm, working with specific teams or whatever, we tailor, our programs to meet the needs of the team. And it's not just a stock, shop or anything. So because that context is so important, I'm not going to teach, a team sport lacrosse, female lacrosse team the same way I would teach a female cross country team. I mean, the needs are different. And we can even boil it down to the individual needs are different, but even the context of the messaging has to be has to be there. And so I think it's very important to know your audience and to know when you are, making kind of these blanket statements on social media, which, listen, I'm in public health, like, messaging to the masses is kind of like, that's what one of my degrees is in.
Right.
But I still have to put context behind it in order for people to say, oh, you know what, this might sound like me, or you know what, no, this has nothing to do with me. So those people that you're talking about are like, okay, yeah, you need to get 10,000 steps a day. You need to get 10,000 steps a day if you're not doing much else for the rest of the day.
Right.
Exactly. If you're a student athlete and you're practicing, up to 3-4 hours a day, you don't need to be having 10,000 steps on top of that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I absolutely agree that I think, that is a huge issue. And, I think we touched on this a little bit before in our other conversation is, that social media has a huge, I hate to say blame, but let's put it this way. It does play a huge role in that messaging being misunderstood, because we automatically want to see ourselves or have, the answer. And a lot of times we look to social media for those things. But if we are not a informed consumer of that knowledge or that information, it's very difficult. And I'm speaking as a almost 7-year-old woman who still has a very difficult time herself navigating social media and those messages. So when we talk about, middle school and high school and even, college age individuals, I can only imagine, how difficult that is.
Yeah. And I think some of it there, and again, the social media technology piece, I'm kind of lumping into one thing. I 100% agree with you, which is why I use that. How many steps did you take? Mm-hmm. That's an irrelevant. One of the things that I, tell our athletes when they're done with their season is that they get, it's 4 weeks off, which means that do whatever, whether you want to go for a swim or you want to walk the dog or you want to watch Netflix or learn how to bake sourdough bread. I mean, I don't care what it is. Just do something other than what you're doing and stop measuring. Mm-hmm. So, one of the things I'm putting together some information. I stopped tracking the number of miles, how fast I was going about a month ago. And so I did a, 10K, timed it, and then went back and did another 10K today. And you know what happened during that period of 4 weeks? Nothing. Right. Literally, I mean, if that was helping me get faster or slower, like something would have changed, but literally nothing changed. I mean, and like the sleep one is one that drives me crazy. People are like constantly monitoring. Well, did I get enough sleep? I don't know. Does it feel like you got enough sleep? Like, I mean, I understand the looking at something once, but then this constant measuring. People do it with calories. How many calories did I take? Are you hungry? People don't even know if they're hungry anymore.
Right.
Like, I mean, do you get that ever?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Getting people away from the measuring part.
Yes. I mean, we are a very data-driven society. And as you get further into, closer to a collegiate, athletic career, usually that data is, being used more and more, or, you're asked for your data more and more. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's almost kind of more difficult to have somebody break up with a relationship with, constantly tracking, whatever it might be. And, that again, that's because that is a behavior, right, that we're trying to break. It's not easy. And so again, we're trying to change that behavior is difficult and does need a lot of support. And, again, we're hopeful that this community helps with that. But I also think too, with the specific, tracking and data and things like that, I do hope we can turn off some of those things and try to stop the override with, our hunger cues or whatever it might be. Because they are obviously so important. And it helps us learn to trust
the point.
Ourselves, right? The messages that we're getting from our body.
That's the point. Yeah. That's the point. There's that instinct, that natural instinct, like those things are real. Like those are innate. We are born with those, and we do need to tune back into those.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back a little bit, just talking about from a public health
Mm-hmm.
and body image.
Yes.
To me, there's a huge disconnect because people, again, have assigned a label to what quote unquote health is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
in this country, it's thin, it's white, it's blonde, it's blue,
Mm-hmm.
blue eyes and blonde hair. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, I mean, I think it's changed a little since I grew up, but it hasn't changed much. I mean,
Mhm.
thin is definitely the ideal,
Yep.
and diet culture and nutrition are the same word. And
Mhm.
that's where I think there's so much murky water. So what do you think we can be doing from a fitness, nutrition, public health perspective,
Yeah.
getting that messaging more clear to middle school, high school, college girls and their caretakers?
That's a great question. And honestly, Anne-Marie, if we had the answer, we'd be sitting on top of the world right now. But I think honestly, it really does come down to trying to get a little bit more. Well, first of all, we have to stop normalizing diet culture behaviors.
Yeah,
But the problem with that is because they are so normalized, people they're not even aware of that is a diet culture, like I get a lot of times, oh, I heard if I'm hungry, I'm just supposed to drink water. No. That's a whole different cue. That your hunger pains are not telling you are dehydrated. They're telling you actually need food. And people are like alarmed. They're like, wait, what? No, that is so rooted in diet culture. It's not even funny. So things like that, we have to start breaking, bringing that awareness in. And then, okay, once we've kind of hopefully started to, normalize non-diet culture messages, then I really think we need to find that buy-in from our middle school athletes, our high school athletes, our collegiate athletes, who are basically our stewards of those messages, right? Yeah. We have to really almost breed a new culture to help with the future culture. So, honestly, this is where, we're looking to those athletes to be like, listen, we need you to be ambassadors out there of spreading the good word of fueling your bodies, and all body types are athlete body types. Do you know, so messages that are true and are rooted not only in science, but also too just good old fashioned good health and, physical health, emotional health.
Yeah.
That we need kind of that buy-in from those athletes. And so that's why, I am hopeful, to do some of that with, some of the athletes that we work with, is like, okay, listen, you're going to be, how we have team captains, you're going to be kind of the team, ambassador for nutrition, health, whatever messaging, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it might sound silly, but let's point and shoot and let's try to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something.
Because I think it's a little, we just have to get the ball moving in the right direction.
And it's
Megan,
interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
From a nutrition perspective, that normalizing diet culture, but it happens on the other end too. It happens with strength and conditioning. Like the amount of pushback I get from female athletes, like, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to get strong. I don't want to look like that. Like, you don't understand the value, first of all, from a health perspective, of having strong bones and muscle. Like, let's just talk about health. But now we're talking about performance. We're talking about injury. We're talking about optimizing, performance metrics, like even like being fat. Like we've had girls on this podcast say that they like literally stopped, whether they're swimming fast or running fast, because they didn't want to outperform boys. I mean, like it's so embedded in so many things. I think that we forget that piece, but I didn't want, go ahead, go back. And you had a question for Megan. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's where, Megan and to her teammates and more of her cohort would be, I mean, you're always super important, but like, what do you think, Megan, you do you think messages coming from within, let's say within your peer group or your age cohort, do you think that would be something you would listen to or that would resonate more with you rather than, Anne-Marie and myself, coming in and kind of from an older, more seasoned, let's say, right, Anne-Marie? Age group.
This is kind of not the best answer, but I seriously would, in a perfect world, I think both would be the best.
I agree with you.
People or two awesome, women like you two come in and talk to us, and then we'd have a designated role on the team. It's so funny because I never thought about that being a role because it is just as important as the rest. But we have, a volunteer coordinator that helps us do volunteer events as a team. We have a team activity thing. And bonding. So we have all these other roles. And I'm like, thinking, I'm like, wait, this is seriously just as important.
Yes.
And this could totally be a thing. So if it was ever if it was me, for example, on my team, I would have loved to be able to work with someone like you guys and then bring that information back to my team, or even something like that would be so awesome. So I just got so excited and I was like,
oh my gosh, yes, good. Well, we've got a whole platform ready to roll out for you.
I think every team ever.
The team liaison thing, we actually started this year. Instead of having captains, we had team liaisons. And it worked super well. But one of the things we brought on, I don't know if you saw this, Kelly, but we had a
yes, I love the fuel box.
Yeah,
was so good.
Something that was available before practice and after practice, but we had a team liaison that was responsible for that, and just kind of normalizing the conversation. And I know we're going to run out of time here, but before we move on, I do want to talk when we're talking about health. Yeah, and one of the measures of health for girls is having their periods. Yeah. So I want to have a couple of conversations around this before we sign off.
Absolutely.
A couple of different things. First of all, getting the period talk, into the locker rooms where it belongs. And, what can we do better there? I know, Christine, you had some suggestions. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Also, the misinformation going as far as pediatricians and OBGYNs and parents and caretakers and girls thinking that when they're on the pill and they get a period that they're quote unquote menstruating, to help them understand that is not a period. Yeah. You cannot measure if you're ovulating, which is what we're trying to measure when we're talking about optimal health. That is not a period, and helping people understand that. It's frustrating to me because I think that's where we're seeing so many problems, because the number of young athletes, for a lot of maybe very good reasons, are going on the pill, but it is really difficult then to measure from a health perspective. So what are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree. I think that conversation needs to happen. Maybe even earlier than middle school, to be honest, just like some sort of early conversations, because that's also too when we see those bodies start to change as well. Do you know what I mean? And that's what they are probably a lot of them are girls are most worried about, are the changes that are happening to them without them even really being educated of why and when it might happen. That it happens, differently in everybody, but it's still kind of taboo almost, to talk about. And so you're right. I think it needs to happen in the locker room, which then leads, to the conversation of, well, are coaches responsible for having this conversation, or who is responsible then for having, the conversations? And again, I think it goes back to all of the parties, right? Sure. The athletes, the coaches, and the parents, and really, again, anybody in that care circle. And so trying to treat it as almost a, group effort would be, I think, the best way to handle it. And again, it's bringing that awareness about, it's also building that trust. If we can build that trust within the locker room with our own teammates and our coaches and our parents, it opens up that, that communication. So if there are issues, then, that athlete will have, more comfortability coming and speaking, and or just receiving the messages that we are trying to educate on. So that building that trust, I think, is a huge piece of that puzzle. And again, I don't think you're going to get that at a a super, public health message, but if we can whittle it down. So if, we're coaching at, whatever level, but then you're taking into your own locker room and being like, okay, here's the template that we have.
Sure.
We are going to work from this to see what works best, for our team or our family, whatever the environment might be. Because again, that trust is, I think, the biggest piece of a puzzle, especially when we're talking about something like periods or female bodies, whatever that might be more uncomfortable for some to talk about. And that brings a whole nother piece of, well, how many male coaches are in, this coaching world? Well, guess what? There are a lot. And a lot are not comfortable having those conversations.
Sure.
And it's not, no one is to blame for any of this, right? Sure. But what we want to do is probably be curious, let's say, about how we feel about some things and how they make us feel. And if we are uncomfortable, what can we do about it? Or if we're not knowledgeable, what can we do about it? And so I think, some of those messages, just kind of checking in with ourselves on where we feel on some of these issues is really a great place to start, especially for, again, and I'm not calling out male coaches. We love them. We need them, but it's just probably a little bit more uncomfortable for them to have conversations with. And then for those female athletes, are they going to want to talk to a male coach about that? So maybe we can have a female liaison, on the staff somewhere, whether that's an athletic trainer or a strength and conditioning coach or whomever it might be. But again, working as some sort of cohesive, collaborative unit, I think is a great, a great method, could be a great method.
Yeah, I agree. And all those things are conversations we've had a million times on Peak. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The industry, the female athletes industry is, significantly male dominated. I think that needs to change. Since Title IX, the number of female head coaches has actually declined, not increased. And that's because there's more money to be made. But I agree with you. We need them because without them, our industry goes away. I mean, we go backwards, not forward. Yeah. So I agree with you. And I think that helping normalize the conversation, but also then understanding that everybody needs to stay in their lane. And so I know one of the things the track and field coach did this year is he actually asked me to stay on as the strength and conditioning coach for track, mostly to have a female representation. Great. It's a pretty male dominated, yes. And because he wanted that consistency. So that's the thing. If we're open enough about the conversations, coaches want what's best for these kids. They just do. Yes. The majority of the time, right? The most coaches are there. They're not there to make the money, right? Right. That's not why we're doing this. They're there because they want what's best for these athletes, but they don't know what's best unless we're having more poignant, conversations, and getting the period talk into the locker rooms, as we keep saying. So anyways, we are going to get cooled down because otherwise this is way too.
I know. I could talk forever.
Again.
Well, I would love that. You know that.
All right. What is your favorite way to calm your mind and or body?
Oh my goodness. Favorite way would probably be, I love a good walk outside, sunshine, preferably by the beach or some sort of like waterway for sure.
Love that. What is a food you wish was portable enough to eat on a bus after competition?
Oh my gosh. Portable enough. I mean, I love a good like hearty soup with some like bread and butter.
Love.
But honestly, you can't go wrong with like a Philly cheesesteak. But I mean, that's kind of portable, but I'm not going to lie. If it's a real one, it's probably making a big mess. So probably, a Philly cheesesteak as well. Something along those lines.
I love that. Since we're talking about food, let's stick on that. And if you had 3 people you can invite to a dinner party, who would they be?
Oh my goodness. Robin Roberts. Gosh, I love that woman. I have always loved her. Probably, I mean, they're going to probably all be like women in sports somehow. Right. I know, right? Now this is she was one of my idols when I was young. So Janet Evans, she was an Olympic swimmer.
Of course.
And then also to someone more recent. Oh gosh, of course, my girl, Simone Biles.
Oh, I love it. I would want to be a fly on the wall at the dinner party. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. So thank you so much for Kellie for being here. Thanks everybody else for being here. Don't forget to follow us, share our episodes, join us on Instagram, Peak, Train Like a Girl, and take a minute to explore our website. We're going to drop the links to everything Kellie talked about, including her